Bolton Wanderers 0, Everton 0. After a rather promising start to the preseason last week against Dundee Football Club, today felt more like a rather familiar, rather disappointing preseason game. And in many ways, it was I think, an afternoon of twists and turns in terms of Everton emotions. Before the game, several rather big, disappointing news. First, we get the news that James Garner is injured. And judging from Everton's communication, we are worried that he might miss the first couple of games of the season, let's be honest. It's sad that the timeline is the plan for him is to return for about the first game of the season, but judging from previous communications like that, wouldn't surprise me if he would miss the first 3 or 4 games of the season. So James Garner out, bad news. And then we saw the lineup. And that lineup, compared to last week, which we felt was a positive, young lineup, that lineup, to me, it was a negative lineup. So we saw what was the lineup. We had Travis in goal, and then we played 3 center backs: Tarkowski, Branthwaite, positive, O'Brien, and then we were all thinking Aznou on the left. And then the midfield, Röhl, Harrison Armstrong, Tim Irukbunem, Charlie Alcaraz, Dwight McNeil, and up front we had Barry. So that lineup to me was already a little bit negative because I was like, where is Tyreek? Why are we playing O'Brien at right back? Why not Merlin Röhl on the right? And then we saw the actual formation, and my initial reaction was, oh my god, even worse, because we went for a back five. Moyes played all of the center backs. We played a three with O'Brien, Tarkowski, and Branthwaite, and then we played Aznou on the left and Merlin Röhl on the right. So when I saw that, I was like, what the hell is going on? Are we playing a back five against Bolton Wanderers? And then the first 15 minutes of the game went exactly like suited my reaction because we were completely, the balance was terrible. Everton had way too many men, sat way too deep, and invited pressure from a side which you should never approach a game like that. You should never give the initiative to Bolton Wanderers when you're the Premier League side. So the first 15 minutes went as bad as I expected. But then what ended up being the case, that's why I said twists and turns, that formation then turned out to be, for the rest of the game, the better formation. Because around the 15th minute, Everton found their way into the game, and we saw how this formation can also work. Because we had genuinely offensive-minded fullbacks in Aznou and Röhl. Both of them had a very good first half overall. They were very much involved in all the attacking momentum we had. We saw moves down both flanks, especially Röhl had some key moments there. He provided the potential assist for a goal that was chalked off. We don't have VAR, so I'm not sure. Could have been offside, but was definitely very tight, and the broadcast also didn't have a proper replay, which could have indicated was it offside or not. Anyway, Röhl played a good game again on the right, and Aznou played a good game on the left again, and also it was very effective. We saw that this formation created many good angles in midfield. Especially Tarkowski found and Branthwaite both found it very easy to play small through balls through the middle, and Harrison Armstrong, but also Alcaraz, they were both able to play very nicely between the lines. I think especially Armstrong had a fantastic first half, probably my man of the match. He had a very, very good first half, several key good dribblings, and overall, like I think he was one of the keys where Everton played a very good first half overall. Not phenomenal first half, but from the 15th minute, Everton were in control. The game was mostly played in Bolton's half, and Everton created at least 3 key chances. One header from Tierno Barry, very, very close. Then we had a fantastic move down the right, initiated by Alcaraz, and then played to the right to Merlin Röhl, who put a perfect pass to the middle, with Barry scoring nicely with his left, but was apparently offside. And then the best move of the game for Everton just before halftime, Tierno Barry initiated through ball to Harrison Armstrong, lovely back cut, and Tiano has to score there. That will be the only moment in the game that he will regret, because overall he also had a very good game first half. And then second half was almost the complete opposite, because Moyes made a lot of changes. So he took off Armstrong, Aznou. Who else did he take off? Barry. And he also took off. Anyway, we changed formation. We brought on George on the left side. We brought on Dewsbury Hall. He took off Branthwaite, because we brought on Michael Keane and Beto up front. Those were the four subs. Pretty much, I think Beto came on 5 minutes after the second half. So we had four substitutions at halftime, and we changed formation. We went back into a more familiar shape, from a 5-4-1 to a 4-5-1. And that second half, the first 50 minutes started off pretty good. Like, Everton were on the front foot. On the left side, Tyreek George was immediately involved, had pretty good, looked sharp, looked ready. First 50 minutes good. Good shot from Röhl as well in there. But then the last half an hour of that game, that was the worst phase of the game. So that more established formation, the 4-5-1, with rather established players in there. So the back four was basically the back four from last season. That formation ended up being the much worse formation. The second half overall was a terrible half of football from Everton. A game against Bolton Wanderers should never look like that. The game was mostly played in our half, and Everton found it really difficult to build up from the back. And I have a few ideas why that might have been. I think the balance in the midfield was terrible. I think both Iruk Boonem as a 6 and Kieran Dewsbury also at 10, that is a terrible combination, especially with Merlin Röhl in there. Because in the second half, as a midfielder, he was barely visible. That whole midfield was non-existent. The gaps between them were way too much. There was none of that smart, intricate passing game from the first half. Nothing. Dewsbury Hall ineffective in the 10, Merlin Röhl invisible in the 8, and Iruk Boonem struggling on the 6. So, game of two halves in a way, with differing 15 minutes. First half, overall positive. Should have been ahead at least by one goal, if not two. Second half, bad game of football from Everton. Bolton didn't create any major chances, but they had more momentum than we had in the second half, and that second half is concerning. Now let's talk about some players. I already mentioned them. Who I think left another positive impression. Adam Aznou on the left, again, had a good game. Harrison Armstrong. I thought Merlin Röhl in that first half as a right back. Tierno Barry as a striker. Charlie Alcaraz gave a decent reminder that he's still to be reckoned with. And and of course, Jared Branthwaite. By far our best centre back. That was maybe, in terms of reliable players, Branthwaite was the best news from the game. He looks like he's ready to go. He played like a Rolls Royce defender again, solving everything in a way that makes it look easy. Had everything under control, had good through balls as well, played a perfect first half. Then let's talk about players who I think overall didn't have the best game. In the first half, I wouldn't say anyone, but both half combined, I would say Tim Iruk Boonem. This game was actually very important for him, especially with the injury to Garner, Idrissa Gueye being officially let go to Saudi. This was kind of the game for Tim Iruk Boonem to remind everyone, maybe I'm the new number 6 for this club. But unfortunately, he suffers maybe even more from the same issue that Idrissa Gana Gueye has. On the defensive side, he is a very valuable player. He shields our back four pretty well. Like, his defensive actions were there again. But with the ball, he is such a dead weight on that team. Both, either more up front, when you play the ball to him closer to the box, it just doesn't look the same, does it? But then also, like, he's unfortunately also not the holding midfielder in front of the back four that you can reliably pass the ball to and will find a way to play us through some pressing. He didn't look comfortable with the ball again, especially comparing him to Armstrong. Armstrong, like, you could see a difference in class with the ball there. Armstrong clearly the better midfielder today. and made a much better case for him. Still, what we have to see is Armstrong. Armstrong is not our number 6 either. Armstrong is like pretty much has similar strength to James Garner. So if we go into the season with that midfield, I would say James Garner has to be the 6. Then Dewsbury Hall, probably the number 8, or Armstrong, and then a number 10. Who would be the number 10? Hopefully Hackney, or either Merlin Röhl or Alcaraz. Based from that game, I would say that's how I would position these players. KDH once again showed to me he's not a 10. He's better a little bit deeper, probably as our number 8. Like if we want to say positions, the deepest midfielder has to be Ghana or Irukbunim, but I don't think Irukbunim works very well as that number 6. Then on number 8, I see Kieran Dewsbury Hall and Armstrong. And then as number 10s, I see Merlin Röhl and Alcaraz and Hackney. But maybe, based on today, maybe Merlin Röhl is actually better suited currently, at least for this current squad, on the right. Because he was the better right back today. So before this gets too long, let me make some conclusions. And I was thinking about that. Yes, you could say it was this game overall in terms of the result and how we looked against a team from a lower division was a concern. But you can give it a positive spin if you regard preseason as a platform to learn something about your squad. At least we learned that the more established formation, the more established players, the team we saw in that second half, that team was the more concerning one. That team was the one that struggled more. So I hope Moyes has seen that back four together with Tim Irukbunim in midfield. Yes, it may seem safe. You have so many defensive-minded players, but it invites more pressure. It creates overall a worse game balance than if we play with two more offensive-minded fullbacks. Aznou, Mikolenko started the second half overall pretty well. I thought in the first 50 minutes he was pretty good. Had some good long ball. He had a good ball to Beto, which Beto completely made a mess of, and he was also had good link-up play with George and Dewsbury Hall initially. But the rest, from the 60th minute on, we saw the old Mikolenko. Where was he offensively? Not nowhere to be seen. Only defensive-minded, like closer to his own box than anywhere up front. So I think Aznou made a better case for himself on the left. Röhl made a better case for himself than O'Brien. The second half, the right side was dead. There was nothing. O'Brien didn't do anything wrong, but the overall balance in the game wasn't there with him as a right back. Whereas Merlin Röhl, he played a bit of a frantic game at times. You could see he's not in his natural position, but he was lively. He's able to interpret that right wing pretty well. I think if we'd start the season tomorrow, I'd put Merlin Röhl as a right back. What else did we learn? Unfortunately, my boy, Tyreek George, who I just made a video on, didn't have a good game. Maybe the first 10 minutes were fine, but then he had some overall terrible second half. And then on top, Moyes put him on the right, where he's not a right winger. I think we saw that as well. Even though he had his better moments there than on the left today. No, he's a left winger. So he had 20 bad minutes, and then he was put on the right. Terrible, I think, not a good coaching again. Graham came in and also didn't do much. So George didn't have a good game. Let's see what are like my learnings in terms of players. I think currently, Tiano Barry over Beto. Clearly had a better game today. Much more versatile, created better chances, much more involved in the creating part of the game, whereas Beto had a poor game today. The few times he was in, he made a mess of it, looked heavy. Yeah, he fought as usual, but no, that wasn't a good game. Aznou over Mikolenko currently, Röhl over O'Brien if we play a right back, if we don't buy a right back, and Tiano Barry over Beto. The result, I don't really care. First half, positive. If we learn from that, can be a positive preseason game because we hopefully learned that many of the players that didn't feature last season, at least in this game and last game, overall had a more positive impact on the game than the more established players. Hopefully Moyes takes that lesson. We don't go back to that usual slow, offensively completely inept back four paired with Irukbunim. We don't play Irukbunim as a 6 and KDH as a 10. So that midfield also, I think, that is also a learning. that midfield combo doesn't work, if KDH has to play deeper, Irukbunem is not the guy to be the first midfielder to receive the ball from our back four. If we learn from these things, then this can be a positive preseason game, precisely because we saw what doesn't work and what can work if we do things differently from last season. Let me know your thoughts. What players stood out for you? What players stood out for you positively and negatively? And what lineup would you like to see against Stoke during the week and then against Hamburg? By the way, I'll be attending the game in Hamburg. That's going to be exciting. Trying to do a bit of a vlog for that one. All right, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thanks very much for watching. Adios.